Hello there, friends. It's Ashley here from the Loopy Lamb and theloopylamb.com, and thanks so much for stopping by the channel. Dive into the world of micro crochet amigurumi with me today as we review this new book, 100 Micro Amigurumi, Crochet Patterns and Charts for Tiny Amigurumi by Steffi Glaves. Now, this is a book to create toys that are itty bitty. We're talking fractions of an inch. So we're going to be talking about what is included. We'll talk about supports for makers. And if you're a little intimidated by the micro aspect of these toys, what you can do to get started. So we're going to also talk about how you can enter to win a copy of this book as well. So make sure that you listen to the end of the video to find out how you can enter to win. Now, there are 100 crochet patterns in this book, as mentioned by the title, and I'm not going to list every single pattern here on the video because it will take quite some time for me to tell you all. But if you need to know exactly which patterns are in the book, you can find a full listing of every pattern in the book over on my blog in the written version of this review at theloopylamb.com, linked in the description box for you below. But I will touch upon is that the book is broken into sections or pattern sections because they've got groups of pattern types and they've grouped them together. So we've got fairy woodland creatures, about town, fruit and veg, food, animals, back to school, travel, space, sea life, and myth and legend. So you can kind of get a little bit of an idea of what kind of patterns you'll see. And we'll be flipping through the book as well. So you'll get some context as well to see some of the patterns in the book. The patterns in the book are written using the UK terminology. If you're not familiar with that, that's okay. They've included a UK to US terminology conversion chart, and you can find that on page 106. Now, some of the patterns include stitch diagrams, and I'll find you an example here, but the diagrams are not for the full toy. It's only for sections of the toy to help you out. Here we are. So for instance, here's one of the charts. This is for the butterfly toy, and this is a chart to show just the butterfly wings. Now, there are no listed skill levels that I could find in the book, so I'd say based on my experience that the toys range from an easy to advanced level, not factoring in the difficulty of working with thread and crochet hooks of this size. Now, when I say that these toys are itty bitty, these are fractions of an inch. This toy here, this house, is 1 3/16 of an inch tall by 25 over 32 or 30 seconds of an inch. My gosh. So these are really, really little. And so you can definitely make them bigger, and we'll talk about that in a moment. Now, reading and comprehending the patterns, when I did my initial read through, I found most of the patterns to be relatively clear and straightforward. However, some of the patterns use abbreviations that are kind of combined and I wasn't used to seeing before. For instance, one of the patterns used BLSS. And now typically you'd see that abbreviated as BLOSS, meaning back loop only slip stitch. And that kind of combination wasn't listed anywhere. So you kind of have to puzzle that together if you're not familiar with that practice of kind of combining your terms. Now, if you're somebody who needs pattern support images, there aren't any in the book for any of the patterns. And now that's understandable because these toys are so small, it would probably be near impossible to capture tutorial images for projects of this size. Now, for supports for makers, in the beginning of the book, you've got a Before You Begin section, which I highly recommend that you read. It starts on page 6, and there you'll find information about what to look for when you're buying thread, different thread classifications, crochet hooks that you're going to need, and more. And when you're looking at crochet hooks, you're looking at your steel hooks. You're going to be like for here, it mentions here like a 0.75 millimeter steel hook, right? So you're looking at really, really tiny hooks that most people don't already have in their toolbox. Now, the UK hook sizes are listed in each of the pattern, but there is a handy conversion chart on page 9 that will help you find the US conversion for the hook sizes. There is a difference between the two. And in the back of the book, you'll also find step-by-step instructions and illustrations for different crochet stitches and special techniques that are used. I found this section to be really thorough and contains specific advice for different necessary crochet techniques needed for the toys. And any that you're not familiar with, I feel most people will get an easy comprehension from that. Now, if crocheting with thread intimidates you, or you're unsure if you're ready to jump into the world of miniature crochet, you can still use the patterns in this book. Just substitute in a thicker yarn weight and bigger crochet hook. So like for me, if I were starting out, I would start with, say, a 3.5 millimeter crochet hook or an E-hook and a worsted weight yarn if I was super intimidated, but I wanted a bigger toy. Like you could make this guy and he'd probably turn out to be probably about this big based on your tension. You know, this is just a guesstimate based on my personal tension. But so you can definitely take a look at these toys with, and just make them with whatever your preference is. You don't have to go as micro as these are if that's an intimidation for you. And in the back of the book, the designer gives some really great advice about starting out as well. If you're starting out, but you really want to do the micro aspect, you can start with, again, a heavier thread and a different hook, and then start working your way down as your confidence progresses and your experience progresses. So, because, Rome wasn't built in a day. I'm sure that Steffi didn't start out crocheting with thread and everything turned out perfect immediately. So we want to make sure that we have that in our heads if we're feeling defeated, because everything takes practice. And you get a really good idea here of how little these projects actually are, because the cover I find is a tiny bit misleading, because and I understand they want you to see the detail because they make the projects look so much larger than they are. Initially, I thought the projects would be about this big, crocheted with thread. But this is really how big that they are. There's the butterfly that we talked about already. Here's a slice of pizza that can be used as a necklace. Yeah, so these are really tiny. Now, overall, I think that this is a really fun book. It's colorful and creative, and it's got a great collection of crochet designs that have a wide variety of different types of items that you can work through. Now, I'd personally recommend this book for intermediate crocheters that have a firm grasp of basic crochet stitches and, want to kind of adventure outside of their comfort zone. But I think that adventurous beginners wanting to take on micro crochet could also use this book if they started with a much bigger crochet hook and yarn. And like I said earlier, working their way down, right? Because for the most part, all of the stitches that are used are just single crochets. So if you're a beginner, you've done a couple of amigurumi projects, you could absolutely tackle some of these with a heavier yarn and hook combination. So as I already mentioned, we are giving away a copy of this book to one lucky winner. And if you'd like to enter to win, head on over to the written version of this review on my blog. Again, linked in the description box for you below. Check out the review, and at the bottom of the page, you will find an entry form and all the giveaway rules and details. So that's it for me today, friends. I hope that you found this helpful. If you did, please hit that like button and please consider subscribing to this channel. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comment section below and I'll try to help you as much as I can. And if you enjoy free crochet patterns, please check out my blog, theloopylamb.com. Thanks so much for watching, friends. Happy hooking, and I'll see you next time.